Hi everyone, I'm here with Angella Foster, who with Lisa Pellittiere choreographed and directed the wonderful dance production, The New Deal Nut, a Greenbelt Nutcracker, that you'll be watching shortly. Angella, we loved your production. The dancers were terrific, performing ballet, tap, classical Chinese dance, and 1930s swing jazz numbers, all enthusiastically and skillfully. Tell us about the production. Start with the title, The New Deal Nut. Why that?
I wanted to make something that would appeal particularly to this community because this is where we are and this is the community we serve. So I thought about it, and I had been doing some collaborations with the Greenbelt Museum. So I was reading voraciously at the time all kinds of stuff about the history of Greenbelt and how it started as a New Deal community. And there's also the New Deal Cafe, where the name comes from that. And in talking with Megan at the Greenbelt Museum about, I was asking her questions, saying I want to do this Nutcracker, and she was saying, well, they used to have parties, holiday parties, in the gym back in the day, like early Greenbelt times. And they also used to, drag wagons through town and groups and kind of navigate by themselves, much like Greenbelt kids do now. So it kind of put all these images in my head, and I thought, what if, in the original production of Nutcracker, Clara usually has like a sleigh or something that she arrives in the land of the sweets. So I was like, what about the wagon, That's kind of an iconic, that, radio flyer red wagon's kind of iconic look. And then I thought, well, what would be the land of the sweets? And I thought, well, if you were living in 1930s America, in some ways, Greenbelt was the land of the sweets. It was quite a privilege to get the opportunity to live in Greenbelt at the time, because there was all kind of application process and all that kind of stuff that I learned about. But I also thought, well, if you were living at that time and you were rationing food and that kind of thing, going to Greenbelt future, would maybe seem like the land of the sweets. It would seem like this land of plenty in a way, where things are very different and more colorful and faster and that kind of thing. So I thought, wouldn't it be fun if the first act, that whole first act, was in the past, was in Greenbelt past, in terms of like when Greenbelt was sort of founded, late 30s, early 40s-ish aesthetic. Plus the music from that era is fantastic. Everybody loves it. Nobody can listen to sing, sing, sing and not want to dance, So I thought, this is perfect. We'll set the first act then, and then we'll use the sort of snowstorm as this sort of like time warp to take Clara from Greenbelt past to Greenbelt future, meaning now. So every time we do the show, I change it a bit. The first act stays pretty much the same construction, but the second act, we'll change. Some people call them Easter eggs. We kind of change the little things that we do each time. So this time there was a pool noodle tango. Kelly, who choreographed that section, teaches ballroom dance in addition to other things. And so she has, in fact, studied tango as a dance form quite extensively. So that's special for this year, which, next time we do the Greenbelt Nutcracker, the New Deal Nut, we might do that scene again, or we might not. The classical Chinese dance was another new dance for this year, and that came about because we have an instructor this year, Rose, who teaches classical Chinese and is quite the gorgeous performer in that style, and we're really lucky to have her teaching here in the community. And I thought, the Nutcracker has this history. It has all these dances that sort of pay homage to different nationalities, but they're not always, all that accurate, and thought it would be really beautiful to let's just scrap that music and use more authentic music, and have Rose come up with her own vision of what would a tea dance be in the classical Chinese milieu, and teach that to our students. And I think it's really beautiful. We'll probably put that one in again, because it was so delightful to have something so very different. So yeah, this year our new additions were classical Chinese and ballroom, but every year we add a little something different. Rose choreographed the contemporary dance with the adult students because she teaches contemporary dance for adults. And she choreographed the classical Chinese dance. That's also her class. Kelly teaches ballroom as well as ballet. Kelly reset our Spanish dance to have a little bit more authentic kind of ballroom twist to it. And she set the pool noodle tango. Gabriella has an extensive ballet background, and she sort of reworked a little bit Waltz of the Flowers, which was basically the structure that we had used before that I had set. And she reworked that to work with the students that we have now. She also was kind of Team Clara's coach. She was the Clara coach, and worked with Clara a lot. And we sort of updated that solo because the two Claras that we have this year are are quite quite advanced in their technique, and so we were able to kind of bump up the level of the Clara solo. Lisa is our director of the tap program, so the sort of vision for the concept of all the tap scenes is Lisa's, and some of the choreography is hers. But a former student of ours, Viola, is actually in the BFA program at Towson, but she's still coming back and working on our program. And so some of the tap choreography was set by her, and some of it they set together. And then, of course, myself. A lot of the choreography for the show and the whole basic concept is mine for this particular show. So there are scenes that are sort of reworked versions of versions that I set from the beginning. For example, Snow is sort of always gets a little refined, but is based on the same structure of the piece that I did in 2015 for our first Nutcracker. This is our fourth Nutcracker, yeah.
Tell us about your production process, where you started first with interviewing children or deciding with Lisa what you're going to do exactly this year.
So we started at the beginning of the summer as a staff and talked about who we thought might register for the program. We are a community-based program. It's a non-auditioned program. However, we do require that students be actively training in a dance form with us during the school year in order to be in the show, just so that they are developing new skills as we're asking them to apply them to the choreographic process in the rehearsal process. So we kind of talked about who we thought might register and what different instructors were interested in teaching, and also their realistic availability for the rehearsal process, because it's a lot of hours. So from there, we kind of started parsing out what we thought the scenes would look like. And I had the show basically mapped out on paper before September hit. Once the registration process is open here at the community center, we start to see who's actually registering for the show, because again, it's by registration. As long as they meet the prerequisite of already being enrolled in another technique class, they can be in the show. As they fit the age range and they're in a class, they can be in the show. There's no audition beyond that. However, within the show, we cast people according to their interests and their abilities and their age, and try to keep that in mind. And we also try to make sure that every dancer at minimum is doing at least 2 dances in the first act and 2 dances in the second act. So the rehearsal process for each student depends on what their role in the show is. For us as faculty, we are all pretty much committed to the Fridays, but then we also I'm available this Saturday, and Sugar Plum is my dance, or I'm gonna work with Sugar Plum for these 2 Saturdays if the dancer is available and we have space and all that. So it's a really complicated process, honestly. I think our biggest Nutcracker was right before COVID hit, and that was 52 performers, and this one was closed. I think we were at 48, so pretty close to the original show, because that 52 included some adult performers as well. So yeah, it's a big undertaking, because next year we won't do the Nutcracker. We only do the Nutcracker every other year, because pedagogically speaking, like as an educational process for the children, doing the Nutcracker every year isn't super useful for them. A lot of them would end up playing very similar roles if we did it every year. So next year we'll do something that's sort of holiday-ish. We've done in the past the Snow Queen, and we've done Alice in Wonderland, which was a really fun holiday production. And last year we did the Magic Toy Shop, which also has a sort of sort of magical feel to it that works really well for the holiday season. So we try to do something that seems appropriate to the time, but isn't necessarily the Nutcracker. Mm-hmm. So in 2 years, we'll do the Nutcracker again, and we'll change it up a bit depending on which faculty I have and which students we have and what we decide focusing on. But next year, we're going to do something different.
Good. Well, it's a wonderful production. Tell me about the reason why you called it the New Deal Nut. Why is it called the New Deal Nut?
Well, nut meaning short for Nutcracker, and also sometimes I think there's a old colloquialism of the nut being giving me the news kind of thing, what's new. Right. And the New Deal referring to the government program that actually helped build Greenbelt. Greenbelt was built as part of the New Deal, a New Deal program. It has lots of different meanings. I mean, the nutshell thing works too. I've definitely heard that saying from my grandparents, and that's kind of applicable to our program because it is only an hour. So it's sort of the Nutcracker in a nutshell, right? It's the mini version.
There you go. I think my favorite number was Sing, Sing, Sing. And the kids are dressed in 30s costumes. and they just performed swing dance just beautifully. I was really impressed. I was also very impressed with how you had them all running between each other. Nobody smacked into each other.
That happens in rehearsal.
I'm sure it does. I was impressed having 42 or 48 kids running around through each other is pretty impressive without any accidents. Great job.
When things go wrong in rehearsal, I'm like, well, here's an opportunity to kind of observe this thing that went wrong, and then we come up with some kind of contingency plan. If you knock somebody down, ham up getting them up off the floor. Like there's always like a plan A, plan B, plan C, but in reality, most of the mistakes or accidents that happen in rehearsal rarely happen in the show. And then there are also things that never happen in rehearsal that do happen in the show. And I always tell them before they go on, have a good show, make good choices. Like making a good choice doesn't mean having a perfect show. It means making the best choice you can in the moment and when it actually happens. The reality is the vast majority of kids who study dance are not going to become professional dancers, and that's perhaps not even the point for them. They just enjoy dancing, as they should. Dancing is fun. And it's great for you. But one thing they can really learn from the performance process is dealing with what happens in the moment. You're on stage, you have to make a choice. Make the best choice you can in the moment. It's applicable to life. And I told them if you see something that's unsafe, find a way to solve the problem.
Right.
A bobby pin on the floor, an earring that falls out, a crown that has sharp parts, a breakable teacup, all those things are unsafe. And she made a good choice to help her fellow dancer and to make it part of the show. And that's another thing I think is really valuable about the experience. Again, we're a community-based program, so although maybe some of our dancers will go on to perform professionally, my goal is that they get something really valuable out of it regardless of what their career goals are. And another great thing you can learn from theater is being for each other. In a way that's really concrete. You can sort of say, I'm there for you no matter what, but when you do it in a performance and you actually sort of save your friend and then the other fellow cast members because something goes wrong and you make a good choice to kind of save that moment, you're really being for someone. You're really supporting each other. In our show, we have 2 Claras because being Clara on the show, because it's a main character who's in almost every scene, is a big responsibility. And is not one of our oldest dancers. It's usually kind of a middle range, somewhere in the 9 to 12-year-old range. And it's a big responsibility, and it's really been nice to see how having the 2 Claras, it's not a competitive thing. It's their team Clara. They have each other to rely upon. They can help each other. They can encourage each other. If one is running late to rehearsal, the other one will cover the scene. If one has to leave early, the other one will cover it. One Clara is sick, the other one will catch her up. And that, I think, is a really beautiful thing, like that they can be really for each other, because sometimes performing arts can be quite competitive, and that has its time and its place, but we're not that kind of program. So my interest is really in the kids learning valuable life skills, and just being in front of a lot of people and making good choices in that environment is a valuable life skill. And also learning to be for each other, to be on a team, and feel like you are supporting everyone who's on stage. That you're there for them. And we tell those students as we get closer and closer to the show, whatever happens, it's your show. And we give you the choreography, we give you the opportunity, we've come up with this concept, but in the end, it's not my show. It's not the staff's show. It's that cast's show. Sure. Each Nutcracker is unique to the cast of students and adults that we have, and it's their show. Yeah. It's their show that you saw, and it was great. They did a wonderful job.
My name is Adelina Foster, and I'm 10 years old.
And was also who in the recent Nutcracker?
It's Clara.
Yes, so she was Clara. She has been aspiring to Clara since?
I was like 4, 3.
Yes, she would come to rehearsal, even though she wasn't old enough to be in the cast, and practice the parts in the background. So she's been understudying for the part for quite some time. Sometimes when I think it was the last Clara around, you would fill in a few times, right?
That was for Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, Alice in Wonderland, that's right. You would fill in sometimes. So what was your favorite part of being Clara in the show?
It was nice because I remember looking up to Clara when I was little. It's really nice to have little kids like look up to me. I remember because I wanted to join the older class in ballet because I really liked ballet one summer and I wanted to join the older class. And when I did the first time, I was just visiting it because I didn't think that I was going to stay. I just wanted to try it out. But then I eventually stayed. And that helped me get better at ballet. And I usually dance like 5 days a week, like 5 to 6 days a week. I think I want to just go back to my mom's program because I don't know, I like the dancing there, and all my friends do it there. Also, my mom says I'll probably go on point next year, and I'm excited. I know it hurts, but I still want to do it.
So we had one dancer in the Nutcracker, Missy, who performed on point for the Sugar Plum Fairy variation. We have other students who are on point, but none of them were quite ready to do a solo on point for this year's show, perhaps next time. We do talk about how being Clara, since it's such a high visibility part in the show, there's the dancing, but there's also the sense of being a leader all the time, right? Everybody's always watching Clara, even when you're just standing there. So you have to kind of be a leader quietly or less quietly if you're really dancing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we talked about maybe might be our next show. Is that the Nutcracker?
No.
No, we don't do the Nutcracker every year.
Snow Queen.
We think we might do the Snow Queen. Now, why did we do the Snow Queen event initially? Do you remember?
Because it was like my favorite movie, and I don't know Russian, but I wanted to watch it in Russian because my dad knew Russian, and my mom and my dad went to Russia.
Are you excited?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
They did a wonderful job. I'm really proud of the kids. I'm proud of the Greenbelt, proud of you all for putting on such a good production. I mean it. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to live in a town that can do that, you know, and do it every year and come up with quality productions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our
Thanks for
applause.
coming.
Okay, and you can see all of these coming up right here on the Gate channel and online. Do watch. You'll love it. We did. Thank you.